Is Dan appearing by?
He's gonna zoom in, he should be on. I told him 12:15.
Gotcha.
Is your video really foggy?
Oh, it's all blurry.
Did it get,
But that's, you know why? Because I opened the blinds back here.
oh. I didn't know if it got. I know. I remember one day. It was one of the really hot days last fall. Judge Knight was in the small courtroom. He said. It was 89 or it was like 89 degrees in the courtroom.
Focus now.
Hello, focus on us. There we go. That's it.
I remember having a hearing in here. Oh, man, this is probably 20 years ago now. And they had Maxwell days going on out here. It was in August or July. Hotter than ever. Couldn't open the windows because the Maxwell days was going on. Oh. Glad I'm done with those days. Jesus.
You hear their concern for a little bit with the structural integrity of the roof here.
Really?
There was like a week-long period where Judge McKnight refused to have court in the courtroom.
Because of the snow?
Until they could get some engineer, someone to certify.
Is it
Something
snow
fell
load or what?
No, it was in the summer.
Oh, Jesus.
It was when one of these, some issue happened and someone went up there and it was like, the support was broken and leaning down or something like that.
Have you ever been up in the very, very top attic? Sandy Pidle took me up there years ago. And it's like this area where they have the old probate files and old files are up there. And you have to go, like you're going to the jury room and then there's like the staircase that goes up there. And then you get up there and they have all these boxes in rows. Never knew existed, and it's actually quite attractive up there. I mean, it looked like at one point there was some skylights or something in the courtroom that could like open up.
Wow, that'd be cool.
Yeah. All right, so I think we're gonna start with Dan, but I don't have him on here, so. Can you call him?
Yeah, I said he'd be ready, but. Hey, Dan. Are you able to log on to Zoom?
Kim, you're missing a nice day out here.
Okay, let's see.
We have them two down here, you know.
Okay. Okay, we'll see. It's gonna be a couple minutes for Dan. Should we go with the,
What's a couple mean?
how long?
Let's do the sheriff.
20.
Oh, Jesus.
Let's do this. We can do with the former sheriff, I bet.
Okay, we're gonna go with a different witness first, Dan, and then we'll call you.
I don't know if he's gonna be.
All right,
there.
sounds good, thanks.
Do you have to call him?
He's logged in already, I bet.
I'm not producing. Former sheriff.
Mick, okay, Kim, are you calling Mick?
Yeah, I just texted him.
Okay, is he gonna show up here?
No, he's gonna be by Zoom.
Okay,
Oh,
Ben, we have fewer nice days up here than you guys.
I bet. I bet. So I moved to an area called the Holy Land, which is a village where I keep all my goats at, just for a couple of days of the week. And I forget how everybody calls each other by first names. And I'll try to knock out the Mr. and Mrs., but it is, I should know this, but.
You're north of Highway 8. I don't know what this guy's doing wearing a jacket here, but I mean, geez.
Yeah, right?
I've got this new suit and I've only worn it twice.
Well, for me, up north is like Bloomer. Anything past Eau Claire is tundra, as far as I know. But fair enough. I have a friends who go hunting on the island, and I'd say every 3 years I drive up there and I miss the ferry. And then I sleep in my car and cuss everybody out and go home.
Well, that
This
happens.
time of
Right.
year, they only run about 4 trips each direction this time of year.
All right, and this is in the fall too, so it's even worse, so
Yeah.
come on.
Still pretty icy out there right now.
What's the temperature?
Oh, it's gotta be 50 degrees, I bet.
Mhm.
Oh, we're at like almost 80.
Now, this time of year, it stays pretty cool because the bay is still very much frozen and it's like having a big ice cube next to you the entire time.
I almost can't believe it. That's astonishing. Wow, I think there was like the last mountain of snow, for the parking facilities. I think that melted a couple days ago. So we're in full. Do you have buds and everything?
So we had 2 really, really nice days on Thursday. So Tuesday and Wednesday have been really, really warm.
Right.
So the sewage plants are all overflowing into the lake. That's lovely. But we got so slammed with snow this year that lots of roads are flooded up here right now, and there's
Oh, so
still,
you're still melting down, huh?
oh, big time, yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I just
Oh, yeah,
got my
we-
driveway to thaw out the other day. It was still ice and snow covered.
Ours is still covered.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Wow.
gonna be several more weeks.
Wow. I mean, yeah, I've traveled up there. I see the climatic changes, but that is still kind of hard to imagine.
Yeah.
But go ask somebody from Iowa, right? Or Ohio.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I think the climate change that's going on is gonna result in more snow for us because usually we don't have that much lake effect snow once the lake freezes over, but it hasn't frozen over for the last couple of years.
Interesting. Okay.
So is Mick logging on, do you know?
Yes, he is.
Nancy's tired of my.
As soon as I see him here, I'll admit him. So I got a cell phone number 2920165. Is that him?
Yes, it is.
All right. Mick, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, very good. So this is John Carlson talking, and on Zoom, we've got Attorney Hitchcock Cross along with Ms. Lavasseur, and then with me here in the county courtroom is Attorney Lindsay. You've been called to testify for Ms. Lavasseur's hearing. Are you ready to go?
Yes, sir.
Okay, raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the whole truth, but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Hitchcock Cross.
Thank you, Mr. Brennan. Thanks for being here today. We are focusing primarily here on a sexual assault allegation that occurred at the jail in 2022. Do you recall that?
I do.
Okay, and were you working for the Ashland County at that time?
Yes,
Okay, what was your position?
I was the sheriff.
Okay. Are you able to tell us when you first learned of the sexual assault allegation?
I don't know the exact date, but it had been sometime in the first week of November when I returned from Florida.
Okay. How did you learn of it?
Lieutenant Lavasseur came to my office and advised me that she had received notification that there was an alleged sexual assault in the Ashland County Jail, and told me that the people that were there, that it was the suspect and the perpetrator. And I then asked her if she needed any assistance in this. She stated that she was already started an investigation and contacted an outside agency, the Ashland Police Department, to do a independent investigation of the matter.
Now, you said independent investigation. Can you tell us why the investigation would be independent?
Just to make it as transparent, and we're not covering anything up. An outside agency comes in. If we did it ourselves, they could say that, you know, we are covering up for one of our correction officers, or, you know, somebody saw something or didn't see something. So
Okay.
in those kind of cases, we usually try to get somebody from the outside to do those type of investigations. Just like an accident or something, we'll have an outside agency do an accident involving one of our deputies.
Okay, so even though there may not be a conflict of interest, there may be an appearance of conflict of interest, and that's enough to trigger an outside agency?
Right. And as it turned out, the outside agency didn't do the investigation. We did it ourselves.
Okay, and so, and just to, because we're going to want to talk about that, and thank you for anticipating there. What agency are we talking about?
The Ashland Police Department?
Okay, and then do you know when they were first contacted?
I don't recall.
Okay, do you believe it was before you found out about the allegation?
I'm sure it was. I think the allegations were brought to Lieutenant Lavasseur's attention sometime towards the end of October. I was on vacation in Florida, and when I returned from that vacation is when she met with me.
Okay, and while you were on vacation in Florida, was there anybody who was acting as sheriff?
That would have been Chief Deputy
And who was that, if you know?
Brian Zupke.
Okay. Now, how are requests for the Ashland Police Department to investigations, let me put it another way. Who from the Sheriff's Department contacts the police department if they want the police department to investigate?
It depends on the agency or where it's at. For the jail, it would probably been Lieutenant Lavasseur. For patrol, if it was an instant patrol, it could be the lieutenant or the chief deputy that would make those requests, or the detective sergeant for investigations.
Okay, so for example, the sheriff wouldn't necessarily have to approve those before the request is made?
No, sometimes if they put the request in, the department head from the agency may request a letterhead request from the sheriff. If that happens, then I would do a letterhead type thing, but normally it's good enough just to have a outside agency that gets the request from the, like lieutenant or the chief deputy.
Okay. And was, based on your knowledge and experience as the sheriff, was there anything unusual about this sexual assault investigation as it was handled by the police department?
I don't think it was handled by the police department. I don't recall exactly how that was handled. I just apprised Lieutenant Lavasseur to keep me in touch with what was going on, and if there's any assistance needed to let me know.
Okay. Okay, and was there any policy or procedure in place that dictated communications between the two agencies, the sheriff's department and the police department?
I really don't know.
Okay,
To tell you the truth, I probably should, but I don't.
fair enough. I appreciate that. So, and then again, just going back to what Ms. Lavasseur told you, she had already, when she told you of the investigation, when she came back, she said there was already an investigation started with the police department, right?
That was when I came back, actually. Yeah, she's told me that there was an alleged sexual assault. She gave me the names of the two involved and said that they've already started the procedures in the jail, separating them, and then started their investigation in ours and looking at video footage and stuff, and
Okay.
had contacted the Ashland Police Department.
And are you aware of the Prison Rape Elimination Act?
I am. Priya?
Okay, and yeah, did PREA affect this investigation in any way?
That's why I have a jail administrator. I would have to research that to see if that investigation, any sexual assault or alleged sexual assault, has to be investigated.
Okay, but pre-investigated, right?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, and can you explain to us the difference between the two?
Not off the top of my head. A pre-investigation, I believe, is any time that there's any type of activity where an inmate believes that they have been sexually harassed, assaulted, or otherwise, and I don't think it falls as much as enough probable cause or reasonable suspicion as you would need to have on a regular sexual assault that would happen outside of the jail.
Okay, I think I understand that. I appreciate that. I'm just trying to get clarity. So, after you were informed, or I guess at any time, did you have any discussions with the Chief Deputy Zupke about this assault allegation?
I don't recall.
Okay. And are you aware of who investigated on behalf, or I guess whether the sheriff's department ultimately investigated this allegation?
It was my understanding that Detective Pierce, after Lieutenant Moreland declined the investigation, completed the investigation and turned it over to the district attorney's office.
Okay, and I thought I heard you say the word declined. Is that right?
I believe that they declined to do the investigation, or couldn't do the investigation. I'm not sure exactly how or why the reason was, just that they did not do it.
Okay, and I just to cut short here, you're talking about the police department couldn't do the investigation, right?
Yes.
Okay, and then the sheriff's department took it over at some point?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay, and then was it resolved, and you're no longer sheriff now, right?
That is correct.
Was the investigation completed before you were your time as sheriff came to an end?
I do not. I don't know. I don't know when it was turned over to the district attorney and when they declined prosecution.
Okay. Now, was there any friction between you and Mr. Zupke at the end of your tenure as sheriff?
I guess you could say there was a little bit of tension between the two of us.
Okay. And did you destroy any evidence in connection with the investigation into the assault?
Absolutely not.
Okay, and did you believe that Mr. Zupke would have any reason to believe that you had or were about to destroy any evidence in relation to the assault allegation?
I'll object to that question to the extent it calls for speculation of a speculation.
Just rephrase the question, because I know where you're going with it, but I think the question was a little bit off.
I appreciate that. I think I can fix that. So, let's say prior to you leaving as sheriff, did Mr. Zupke give you any indication that he was afraid that you might destroy evidence in relation to the sexual assault allegation?
Never mentioned anything of that nature.
Okay. And okay. I want to direct your attention, change subjects now for a second. Is there policies for discipline at the Ashland County Sheriff's Department?
There is.
Okay. And are those policies written?
They are.
Okay. And do those policies include pre-disciplinary hearings?
They should.
Okay. Why should they, why do you believe they should have that information?
For progressive steps of disciplinary action and for any type of a laudermill hearing where if they're being accused of something, they can give their side of the story before disciplinary action are taken.
Great. Will you receive any training in discipline anytime?
Very little.
Okay. And how did you learn about the Loudermill hearing requirement?
At a sheriff's convention or sheriff's meeting when I first took office about 12 years ago.
Okay. And have you ever conducted disciplinary pre-hearings before?
No, not that I recall.
Well, let me ask you, have you ever participated in a Loudermill hearing?
No.
Okay. And you supervised the Chief Deputy Zupke, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And do you believe, based on that supervision, that he was trained in the policies and procedures of the Ashland County Sheriff's Department?
He was the one that usually writes the policies and procedures.
Okay. So he would be aware of the progressive disciplinary policy, for example?
Yes, I would think so.
Okay. And do you, based on that supervision, do you believe he's aware of the Loudermill requirements?
Objection.
I have no
to that
idea.
to the extent it misclassifies the witness's testimony.
Okay. Is that because you never discussed them with him or for some other reason?
Objection again to the extent it assumes there is a Loudermill requirement.
Okay.
Go ahead and answer the question. I get it.
Sir, I'm sorry. The connection may be poor, but are you able to answer my question?
Could you repeat it? There's too many people talking. I'm not sure if it was objected or not.
I appreciate that. No, so that's been resolved. And the question is, based on your knowledge and experience and supervision of the Zupke, do you believe that he had knowledge of Loudermill hearings?
I have no idea what he thought or what he knew.
Okay, because, and then, okay. But you didn't discuss discipline with them at, for example, the disciplinary policies with them at any time?
No, we never really had any disciplinary issues that went to this degree, and this happened after I left office.
I understand. Okay. So when you were sheriff, are you aware of whether or not the sheriff's department had any investigators who were trained in PREA investigations?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, would the department have been able to conduct a pre compliant investigation based on the personnel that it had available on at the end of December 2022?
I believe so,
Okay. Why do you have that belief?
because all the correctional officers went through PREA training
Okay.
and would know the proper procedures, I guess.
And just correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding is there's two kinds of PREA training. There's one general PREA training in terms of identifying, reporting, and dealing with issues as they come up. And then there's a secondary kind of reporting that involves investigative or training that involves investigative rules with PREA. Is that your understanding?
I don't have an understanding of that, sir.
Okay, I appreciate that. If we can just ask you a few questions about your understanding of the decision-making process there. Who makes the decision to hire and fire at the sheriff's department, if you know?
That'd be the sheriff with the consent or over the recommendation goes to the Public Property and Law Enforcement Committee. Usually the
And-
sheriff's recommendation is accepted.
Okay, and what's this law enforcement committee, please?
Public Property and Law Enforcement Committee.
I'm sorry, there's a word that you said before law enforcement that I'm not understanding.
Public Property and Law Enforcement Committee that's assigned or appointed by the county chairman board chairman.
Okay, I really appreciate that clarification, and I'm sorry for making you repeat that 3 times. What is the purpose
Not a
of that?
problem.
What is, excuse me there, what is the purpose of that committee, if you know?
Let's oversee the activities and budget of the sheriff's department and the public property buildings and within the county. Normally, any recommendations that the sheriff has will be reviewed by the Public Property Law Enforcement Committee,
Okay,
and it usually goes from there to the county board
are those decisions made in public or somewhere else?
in public.
Okay, so if I understand you correctly, and during your time as sheriff, if you wanted to terminate somebody, you would, I guess let me start it this way. Could you terminate somebody? Could you recommend the termination of somebody based for any reason at all?
I could recommend the termination depending on the severity of the situation, but normally we go through progressive steps of disciplinary action.
I appreciate that. Let me just ask this a slightly different way. Are you able, as sheriff, were you able to terminate somebody, in order to terminate somebody, did you have to identify a rule violation ahead of time?
Yeah, you would have to have a reason, yes.
Okay. And then you would take that alleged violation and the rule itself and recommend discipline to the committee, right?
Correct.
Okay. And who comprises the committee?
I'm not sure who's on it right now. I know it was Laura Negro. I'd have to look at the list now. She was
I'm
the chair
sorry,
when I left.
I'm sorry, right? What I mean is what kind of people comprise that committee?
Oh, what kind of people? Civilian?
Okay, so they're not members of the county board?
Yeah, they're county board members, but they're civilians, yes.
Now I understand. So they're not police officers, they're not sheriff's department officers.
That's correct.
Now I get it. Okay. And how do you know that while you were sheriff, that information was supposed to go to the county board?
That's the way it was done when I took office.
Okay, but for example, are there any county, I don't know if they're called ordinances or something else that regulate how that is done?
I'm sure there are. I don't know what it is off the top of my head.
Okay, but you
I
believe,
just know that the procedures that we had, if we wanted to hire somebody, we would go through our interview process and hiring, and then we would submit that name to the county administrator's office, and it would go to the public property, and they would be advised of it, and you'd get the authorization to go ahead and make the hire. And thankfully, I only had to maybe terminate one or two people as sheriff, and
Okay.
both of them resigned rather than being terminated.
But in those circumstances, that termination would have gone to the property and I'm sorry, that committee. Is that true?
Public property and law enforcement. Yeah, that's how I did it.
Okay. And who was the county executive while you were the sheriff? Was it one person or more than one?
We had three actually.
Okay, was Dan Grady ever the county administrator at any time?
Yes,
Okay,
my last months as last year or so. I'm not sure when Dan was hired, but he was the last one that I had.
okay, so he was recent to when you left. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Now I understand. Okay. And did you undergo any disciplinary, since Mr. Grady took over, did you send any disciplinary recommendations to the property and law enforcement committee?
I'm not sure.
Okay, that's fair. And I just, for everybody's understanding, about how many months before you left did Mr. Grady come on?
I don't recall. I don't know when he started, to tell you the truth.
Fair enough. Sir, I'm going to put you on mute just for 1 second, but I will be right back with you, okay?
All right.
Thank you. Sir, while you were the sheriff, you were the ultimate supervisor of Miss Lavasseur. Is that fair to say?
Pardon me?
Were you the
Repeat that, please.
Sure. Were you the ultimate supervisor of Miss Lavasseur?
Yeah, I was in the chain of command myself and chief deputy.
Okay. And when, let's just say at the end of 2022, who did she report to as jail administrator?
Most of the time she reported to me.
Okay. Is there sometimes that you reported to Mr. Zupke?
I'm sure there is.
Okay, but let's put it like this. Is that part of the usual chain of command that you would report to you directly over the chief deputy? Or am I missing something?
I believe in the policies, her job description, it goes sheriff, chief deputy, her supervisors. But either one of us were capable of taking any type of information from the jail lieutenant.
Now I understand, but I appreciate that. So is it fair to say that it was at Miss Lavasseur's discretion whether she would have alerted you or the chief deputy to the alleged sexual assault?
I don't think it would be her decision or choice. She probably selected or chose the sheriff. I was there, and according to her job description, I'd be the one that she reported to. And I believe there was a report on it where it could have been read by anybody else.
Okay, and do you believe this report was created before November, let's say 20th of 2022?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure when it was. I don't have that information in front of me right now.
I understand. Let me ask you, are you able to inform us if this report was separate from the investigation that was eventually done by a detective sergeant?
I think the report would be part of the investigation that initiated it.
Aha. Okay. So is it fair to say there was an investigation that took place that resulted in a report that was independent, or let's say not necessarily connected to the deputy sergeant investigation?
The deputy sergeant, I don't know what the deputy sergeant investigation, I don't know anything about that.
Okay. So, did you, and I think that's fair, because I don't want to compare two things that you're not clear on. Just again, focusing on the first thing, which is this report. Can you give us a time frame of when that, would it have been before or after you got back from Florida?
I cannot,
Okay. And then, because, and part of what we're trying to find out is, do you think this would have been a law enforcement investigative report or like a jail investigation report?
I probably would have started off as a jail investigation report.
Okay. And you believe, and you've got some kind of knowledge that that report happened, right?
And that's my understanding.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. And sorry, I just want to go back to something that you said, and I guess I asked the question a little clunkily, but Miss Lavasseur would have had, was required to report the assault allegation to somebody above her level at the sheriff's department. Is that fair?
That's fair.
Okay. She could have reported it to you, or she could have reported it to the chief deputy. Is that right?
I mean, that's my understanding is she reported it to both of us.
How do you have that understanding?
That was what was told to me by the lieutenant, that she had spoke to me about it and with the chief deputy.
Okay, and this would have been back when you had gotten back from Florida?
Right.
Okay, and that would have been before November 25th of 2022, right?
Right.
Great. Okay. Sorry, I'm sorry. Okay, so just generally speaking here, did you ever evaluate Kim Lavasseur?
Not a formal evaluation, no.
Okay, did you ever receive evaluations of Kim Lavasseur from that were completed by a sheriff's department employee?
No.
Okay. Do you have an understanding of her job performance based on your supervision of her?
I do.
Okay, and can you tell us up until the time that you left there, what was the quality of her job performance?
I thought she was doing an exceptional job under the circumstances.
Okay, and when you say circumstances, I understood that she took over under trying circumstances. Is that fair to say?
That'd be fair to say.
Okay, can you explain those to us briefly?
The jail administrator that we had previously had died, and Lieutenant Kim Lavasseur accepted or took over the position without any kind of guidance or direction to assist her with her job, and she was doing it as pretty much on-the-job training.
Okay, and this is, sorry, was the coronavirus or anything in that connected with that time frame?
That was right in the middle of it all.
Okay, so she takes over from a deceased jail administrator. And was that a sudden event or something else?
It was a sudden event.
Okay, so she suddenly takes over, it's fair to say. And then the pandemic happened shortly after that, or something else? Okay.
Right around the same time.
Okay. So, but she's managing, I suppose that the pandemic created a number of duties and, extra complications for the sheriff's department, including the jail, right?
There's many other challenges, correct?
Okay, and even based on all those circumstances, it was your estimation when you left up to December of 22 that Kim Lavasseur was doing a fine job. Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
Okay. Did you communicate that to Mr. Zupke at any time?
Mr. Zupke and I had a couple conversations at one time. We disagreed on a couple of things. He thought that she was not doing the job or the way she was supposed to be doing it. He said he had received complaints on her being on the admin side too often. So I spoke with Lieutenant Lavasseur, advised her of that, and what her reasons were, and she corrected it.
Okay, and you didn't issue any discipline at that time?
No reason for it.
Okay, and that all of those allegations and so forth happened while you were sheriff, right?
That's correct.
Okay, were there any other allegations made against Kim Lavasseur by Mr. Zupke at that time?
Not an allegation. There was one conversation that we had about relaxing our COVID policy in the jail, and I advised Mr. Zupke that I would check with the lieutenant on that to see what her position was on it. Spoke with her and said that the CDC and the healthcare professionals of Ashland County said there still was a concern for COVID. We had gone the whole time without any COVID cases with our inmates. And she suggested that we continue with the protocols that we had in place. And I agreed with her, and I told that to Chief Deputy. And at that time, the Chief Deputy said, well, at least until January 1st, until I take over. And then I had to correct him and say, it's actually January 3rd. Until that time, we're going to do it the way I tell him to do it.
Okay. And about when did that conversation happen?
It had to be sometime in maybe September or so. It was right around the time when they started, some departments started relaxing some of their requirements for officers to be masked coming in, booking people.
So he was in favor of looser requirements. Is that fair to say?
I don't like it.
Okay. Was there any indication that he was looking to alter Miss Lavasseur's status prior to your departure as sheriff?
No mention of that.
Okay. And the meaning those conversations that you just described.
Say again?
When you said nothing but for that, I just want to be clear that you're referencing the two conversations that you just described to us, right?
Yeah, that's all I recall. For some reason, Chief Deputy and I didn't really have a lot of dialogue.
Okay. Is based on your knowledge and understanding there, is it fair to say that you were perceived to be close to Miss Lavasseur?
No.
Okay. And
Wait, let's go back to that question. Describe what you say by close to Miss Lavasseur. What do you mean by that?
and that's fair. I mean, we're just trying to get the understanding. I certainly not mean to imply that there's any improper relationship or anything like that. But just in terms of the hierarchy, does it seem like she's more on your team than say Mr. Zupke's team? Or, I don't want to put words in your mouth or anything along those lines. I just want to, is there a sense that you got that she was connected with you more than say Mr. Zupke?
Let's clarify something. There was no my team or Zupke team. There was the Ashland County Sheriff's Department. And a lot of times she'd come into my office and talk to me because I was in my office and I was available to her for that. I saw her many times in the Chief Deputy's office, speaking with him on different issues. I didn't go in there and ask what was going on. There's no reason to believe that. So there was no Brian Zupke team or Mick Brennan team. It was a Ashland County team. And we were doing the best that we could to make sure that we provided the safety of our inmates and correctional officers.
No, I appreciate that clarification. I think where I got confused was on the answer of we'll wait till, July or January 1st.
So that was just Zupke's comment saying that once he takes over as sheriff, he'll make the call. He'll change the policies in the jail and won't be up to Lieutenant Lavasseur.
Okay. And do you know when, how long after Mr. Zupke took over that Miss Lavasseur was terminated?
I don't know offhand. It was less than a month.
Okay.
I think it was sometime in January.
Okay. This is hopefully the last thing I want to be clear on. To the extent that you were aware of any issues with the sexual assault allegations, Do you believe that Kim Lavasseur followed the protocol or procedure for investigating?
Yes, I believe she did.
Okay. Now, there was some question about discipline of employees related to that, the sexual assault allegation. Based on your knowledge of when you left on January 3rd, do you believe that it would have been appropriate for Kim Lavasseur to have disciplined any employees in connection at that time in connection with the sexual assault allegation?
I can't answer that question, Mr. Carlson. I don't know what the circumstances were, but she found out about anybody's performance in their job, if they were doing their job or not. If there were some improprieties or something that was not reported or done, then she would be within her requirement to do disciplinary action, whether it be a verbal reprimand, written reprimand, a suspension, or go for termination.
Okay, but that would have to happen after an investigation took place, correct?
Not necessarily.
Okay. So let's say that she wanted to let's say it was warranted that somebody needed to be terminated, okay, for the sexual assault allegation. Could Ms. Lavasseur terminate somebody?
She could recommend it
And who would she recommend it to?
to myself or the chief deputy,
Okay, who would she go to first if you know?
whichever one she got a hold of first. She'd probably send an email to both of us, send it to me with a CC to the chief deputy.
Did that
If she wanted
happen?
to talk to us if she wanted to talk to us in person, she would probably come over to whichever one was at the office.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I appreciate that. Okay. And I guess that I just want to take you back. There was this accusation that she had been over on the sort of the administrative side too much. As you testified that you talked to her about it, and then after that, that issue was resolved. Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say.
Okay. Okay, just hold on one more second.
Are we still here?
Yes, we're here.
Yeah, just one last question.
Oh, I thought I got disconnected. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I thank you. I didn't give you the correct prompt on that. So my question to you is, when I guess in the disciplinary process, if there's a pre-disciplinary notice that goes out, or I guess if there is a letter that goes out telling an employee of discipline. So this is after pre-discipline, all of that, and there's a discipline that's going to be imposed. How is that discipline communicated to the employee?
In order to be a face-to-face with them with the employee, advising them what their discrepancy was or what their allegation against them if they were not performing their jobs to job performance satisfaction. They would be sat down with their immediate supervisor and told what the discrepancies were, and then have that person give their rendition of what they felt, if they agreed with it or concurred or not concurred with it, and then decide what steps next should be taken next, depending on the severity of the allegation.
I appreciate that. And let's just say, and I know there's very few examples of this happening, but if the law enforcement, if ultimately a employee of the sheriff's department was terminated, how would that termination, and this is after the law enforcement hearing and whatever appeal process that would be available under that, the committee, I mean, how does the county convey to a sheriff deputy or employee rather that they've been terminated?
You know, I guess I really can't answer that, Mr. Carlson, because I was fortunate enough that I never had that. Well, I would assume that after going through the disciplinary actions and the recommendation for termination, that I would go through the county administrator making that ultimate decision.
Okay. And how do you know that?
I'm assuming that.
Okay, I appreciate that. Okay. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for appearing here today. I'm sure there may be more questions.
Okay.
The,
Hello, Mick, this is Max Lindsay.
Yes, sir.
I just have a few follow-up questions on that.
Okay.
In response to Attorney Cross's questions about who conducted the investigation into this alleged sexual assault, you said we did it ourselves. Was that investigation the one that was conducted by Zach Pierce?
Yes.
Okay. Was there any other investigation that you know of that the sheriff's office did into this incident?
I don't know the answer to that. I haven't read the report or the incident, so I don't know if anybody else assisted or anybody else was involved.
Okay. You're
So
not aware
my
of.
understanding-
Oh, go on.
No, I'm the only one that I was aware of. What was told to me was Detective Sergeant Pierce.
Do you know who referred this matter to Detective Pierce to investigate?
Either I'd have to be discussing on that next. It's either Lieutenant Lavasseur or Lieutenant Moreland from the Ashland Police Department.
Okay. So you don't specifically know what happened between the time when the Lieutenant Moreland declined to investigate and when Detective Pierce started the investigation?
I do not.
Once the Ashland Police Department declined to investigate this matter, in your opinion, what was the appropriate next step for Miss Lavasseur to take in this investigation?
To contact myself or the chief deputy, or Detective Sergeant Pierce and say we need someone else to do this. The lieutenant from the Ashland Police Department declined to do it. We need someone to do the investigation. And if Detective Pierce didn't think he could do it, then he would talk to chief deputy and assign somebody from Iron, Douglas, or Sawyer or someplace.
Are you aware if Miss Lavasseur ever did that, ever reached out for further investigation?
I don't know who did. Somebody did because it was completed. So no, I don't know who did that. That might have been something that they went to the chief deputy with that information.
And in your opinion, that should have been done essentially immediately after the APD refused to investigate?
As soon as possible.
Okay. Would 2 weeks seem like a long time for a gap there?
2 weeks. Yeah, I guess that would probably be a little bit of a longer gap.
You testified earlier that any allegations of sexual assault have to be investigated and reported to yourself. Is that true? Is that what you testified to?
I don't know if it has to be reported to myself. There's a lot of allegations that happen in the jail that are investigated. If anything is of a serious enough nature, is brought to mine or the chief deputy's attention. But I mean, there's a lot of different allegations that go on within the jail.
Okay, so that's what I was clarifying. Not every allegation of inmate sexual assault has to be reported to you or the chief deputy.
That's my understanding. The chief deputy may have had a different understanding, but that was my understanding.
What was that, Mick?
I said that was my understanding. I can't speak for the chief deputy. He is also in her chain of command.
Is there any reason that you didn't talk to Chief Deputy Zupke about these sexual assault allegations?
It was being handled. There was no need for me to talk to him about it.
When you say it was being handled, what do you mean by that?
I mean, that Lieutenant Lavasseur took the appropriate action and followed the procedures to get it investigated and got the paperwork and everything over to the district attorney's office.
But you testified earlier, you didn't know who contacted Detective Pierce to start the investigation, correct?
That's correct.
You testified as to some of your knowledge regarding what Attorney Cross referred to as a Loudermill hearing. Do you recall that?
I recall that.
Are you aware of the difference in employment status between the jail administrator and a correction officer or a jailer?
Yes.
And explain the difference in status of employment between those positions to the best of your understanding.
Jail lieutenant is a salaried employee, doesn't get paid overtime, and the correctional officer is somebody who's on overtime and is back before Act 10. We're in a union where the lieutenants were not in a union.
So the jail administrator is a general administrative county employee. Is that your understanding?
Yes.
So they are not subject to the same employment conditions as a law enforcement officer, correct? In
As
your
a law
opinion.
enforcement, as a law enforcement officer, probably not, because they're covered by a union.
Were you sheriff when Lieutenant Lavasseur was hired as jail administrator?
Yes.
Do you recall who made that decision to hire her?
Yeah, I made a recommendation, and it was okayed by the county.
What do you mean okayed by the county? Who did you make that recommendation to?
Information was sent over to the county clerk's office that the decision is made to hire Lieutenant Lavasseur as a jail administrator and to go ahead and start paperwork to change her status.
So that recommendation and decision didn't go through the PPLE committee?
Yeah, they were apprised of that. Yes,
Okay.
just like when we hired the chief deputy, they were involved in the process also.
You recall a time when a correction officer, Jen Copero, quit her employment at the jail?
Quit her employment, which time?
The first time in approximately October of 2022.
Okay,
Do you recall that?
I recall her resigning. Yes,
Did you have any conversations with Ms. Copero at that time about her employment?
I did.
Did she ever discuss with you the reason that she was leaving Ashland County Jail?
She did.
She did not.
She did.
She did. And what did she say those reasons were?
My recollection, that was not a good fit for her. She was more of a disciplinary type person, more of a person who had more structure, and felt that the jail didn't have that type of environment for her.
So it was your understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, was that,
With different programs,
what was that?
she decided to stay on, and between herself, recommendations to Lieutenant Lavasseur, some changes were made.
And then she ultimately quit employment indefinitely with the county, correct?
She did.
Okay. And just to clarify, you said that she told you the reason she wanted to leave was because there was not enough.
I can hardly hear you, Max. I can hardly hear you.
Is that better?
No. Okay, go ahead.
How's that?
Better, yes.
Okay. Just to clarify, when you initially met with her, when she initially decided to leave, she stated the reason was not strict enough compliance with the jail rules.
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay.
That they needed to have more enforcement of the rules and more consistent enforcement of the rules. And
Then-
which I couldn't disagree with her.
You did not disagree with her?
No, we've always had inconsistencies between the two shifts on how they enforce it. The two sergeants had different leadership styles and different ways of doing it. We've struggled constantly to try to get them to be more consistent.
Okay. And the jail administrator is the one who's responsible for the sergeants, correct?
That's her direct supervisor is the sergeant, correct, under her.
So it is up to the jail administrator to ensure that the sergeants are enforcing the rules?
Correct.
And your opinion, as well as the opinion of Ms. Clapero, was that the sergeants were not enforcing the rules?
I don't believe it was the sergeants that were enforcing rules. It could have been correctional officers that were there then when they weren't supervised in the evening hours, which since then we've now got supervisors on for day and night shifts. So she didn't exactly say it was the sergeants that weren't enforcing it, just saying that the correctional officers weren't consistent.
Okay, so it's fair to say that the jail rules were not being enforced.
Fair to say. Some of the jail rules.
Yes. Those are all the questions I have. Thank you, Mick.
I've got a
You're
few.
welcome.
Mick, this is John Carlson. Sheriff Zupke testified that he didn't learn about the sexual assault until November 29th. Do you have any reason to doubt that it was not until November 29th of 2022?
I have no idea when he was notified, John.
Do you have any reason to doubt it was that late?
I would assume he would have read about it or somebody would have talked to him about it or Detective Sergeant Pierce would have talked to him. They correspond and communicate on a daily basis.
Okay, but apparently the two of you never discussed it?
No, I don't recall discussing it with him.
What's your understanding as to when the jail staff learned of the allegations?
I have no idea.
Okay, I have no other questions. Mr. Hitchcock
I
Cross. you have
just
some-
have one or two more. So, I just want to be clarifying here. Isn't it true that you were told that Kim Lavasseur told you that? Did Kim Lavasseur tell you that she also told Mr. Zupke about the sexual assault allegation when you returned from Florida?
I don't recall when Lieutenant Lavasseur told me that, but she did tell me that she spoke to the chief deputy, and I believe there was even some type of an email correspondence. I'm not positive on that, but that's what I was told.
Okay. Then do you believe that was before the 25th of November or something else?
I would believe it would be before the 25th of November. But
Okay.
I can't verify that.
No, I understand. Then there's a position description for the chief deputy, is that true?
Yes.
Okay, and does the position description for the chief deputy say that the chief deputy manages the jail division?
I believe so. I don't have it in front of me right now, so I couldn't. I believe that sounds familiar. Yes.
Okay, so that would make him the supervisor of the jail division, right?
Yes. It's the same as I am. I'm responsible for the whole department.
In your general duties, does it say that you manage the jail division and the clerical staff?
I don't recall. I just know it's my responsibility.
Normally, I'd show him, Mr. Carlson, but I mean, will you stipulate, Max, to the position description for the chief deputy?
For that exhibit, yes. And this, I will though, object to this line of questioning as being outside of the scope of any redirect.
Well, you asked him who was in charge of the jail.
All right, hold on. Let's get the exhibit marked. And then I think you can ask him some questions regarding this. Let's just keep it short, though.
Great.
Where's the,
So in our exhibit list, it's it says Chief Deputy Job Description 001.
there it is. Okay, and this will be, I believe, 8. Let me just take a look. This will be 9. All right, go ahead.
Okay. So I see that you can't, or I assume you're not going to be able to read this, so I will try to read this out for you here. This is in section 1202.5 general duties. It's the 6th bullet point down, and it says manage jail division and clerical staff. And does that mean to you that the chief deputy isn't the manager of the jail division?
No, to me, that means that he's responsible for it ultimately, the supervising lieutenant. The lieutenant is the one who has to make the decisions and has to run the jail. That's for general duties. Or the jail administrator's general duty would be to, for the safety and the welfare of all the inmates and for the correctional staff that work there. So they're the direct supervision of that. The chief deputy and myself then fall over that, just like the chief deputies are responsible for patrol division. Did you read that too? I'm sure there's something farther down there. He's responsible for patrol. He's responsible for dispatch.
Right, okay, so those are all accurate, but then the second question is if part of his duties as managing the jail division is he only responsible to or is he only relying on Kim Lavasseur to explain to him what's happening in the jail, or does he have independent oversight?
But he would have independent oversight.
Okay, and in fact, he's required to independently oversee the jail, right?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. No more questions.
I have no follow-up.
Okay, without any other questions, Mick, I hope you're enjoying retirement. We'll let you go.
Thank you, guys. Have a good day. Be safe.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Greedy?
He should be ready. He said he was standing by his computer.